Good morning. Welcome to the 30th of November, Thursday edition of Inside Nigeria, reaching your leadership television. Today is the last day in the month of November, or too soon. The month of November is coming to an end. And my name is Winifred Ugbebo, your host on the program. As usual, we have an array of newspapers for review in this first segment of the program, talking of leadership, Nigeria's most influential newspaper, The Guardian, The Punch, THISDAY, The Nation, Daily Sun, and Vanguard newspapers, all for review in this first segment of the show. And as we normally do on the program, we like to flag up with Nigeria's most influential, and that is leadership. Leadership's leading story today says 2024 budget, security, jobs, poverty reduction, top priorities. 2024 budget, security,
Zan
jobs,
fara
poverty
labarin wasannin
reduction,
namu da
top
kasar Ingila, inda
priorities.
kocin kungiyar
Defense
ƙwallon
gets
kafa ta
lion's share
Liverpool
as
wato
Tinubu
Yan
lays
Klopp ya
27.5
bayyana cewa
trillion
'yan
naira
wasanninsa guda
before
biyu wato
National
Diogo
Assembly. 9.18 trillion naira deficit caused by proposed salary increment. Capital expenditure takes 8.7 trillion naira. Debt servicing 8.25 trillion naira. And above that, we have Ondo, how Tinubu stop doctrine of necessity plot. That is talking about the imbroglio engulfing the Ondo state governor. Page 77 is the continuation of the story. Ondo, how Tinubu stop doctrine of necessity plot. We move ahead to this ones above the masthead. 36 died, 52 injured in Kwara, Kebbi auto crashes. Northern Elders won 13% derivation for oil host communities. That's the story that continues on page 12 of the paper. And with that, we move to the page 3 of the paper today, where we have our stand. Our stand is a regular on leadership, and is always on page 3. Bring an end to off-cycle election. Bring an end to off-cycle election. That's the editorial today on leadership on page 3, titled Our Stand. From our stand, we move to the back page. Back page today, Thursday, is being blunt with Muazu Elize. Muazu is writing on living at the mercy of terrorists. Living at the mercy of terrorists. All these and more you can read as you log on to the website of Leadership, www.leadership.ng. From leadership's talking budget, still we move over to the Punch. The Punch says 2024 budget, defense education grows, gets 6.7 trillion naira. Federal government eyes 10.4 trillion naira tax. The Punch newspaper, 2024 budget, defense education grows, gets 6.7 trillion naira. Federal government eyes 10.4 trillion naira tax. President targets PPP to finance infrastructure, plans huge IGR, fresh loans, assets sale. Tinubu promises 3.75% economic growth. Jobs reliance on loans has reduced. Ejun, Minister of Finance. And of course, beneath that, we have the picture caption, the picture for the headline story. President Bola Tinubu, during his presentation of the 2024 budget proposal to the joint session of the 10th National Assembly in Abuja. Of course, you can see the president coming in with the budget in the boss. Underneath that, we have police arrest illegal firearms makers in Benue. Police arrest illegal firearm makers in Benue. Police nab 3 NSCDC, that is Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps officers, probe Abuja students shooting. 25 die in Kwara tanker fire. We move above the masthead of the Punch. NNPP petitions EU, ECOWAS over Kano judgment. Federal Hospital CEOs diverting drug funds, PSN alleges. Federal Hospital CEOs diverting drug funds, PSN alleges. Supreme Court backs CBN, cancels old Naira deadline. Supreme Court backs CBN, cancels old Naira deadline. The story continues on page 26 of the Punch today, Thursday, November 30, 2023. For more stories in the Punch newspaper today, log on to the website www.punchng.com. From the Punch, it's still the same budget story in other papers. Let's see what Vanguard is offering. Vanguard says 2024 budget. Tinubu seeks NAS approval for 27.5 trillion naira. Declare security, job creation, poverty reduction top priorities. Says students' loan will commence January 2024. Oil price pegged at $77.95 per barrel. Production 1.78 million per day. Pegs exchange rate at 750 naira to US dollar. 8.25 trillion naira set aside for debt service. 7.83 trillion naira new borrowing to finance deficit. Appropriation Act takes effect January 1, 2024. Will ensure it reflects principles of accountability, inclusiveness, Akpabio, Senate President. Why budget must improve service delivery, development, Abbas, Speaker of the House of Representatives. Budget proposal deceitful, suffocating, no mechanism for economic recovery, PDP. That was the leading stories, quite a lot, and of course the ones I just read that are the riders underneath the leading story. 2024 budget, Tinubu seeks NAS approval for 27.5 trillion naira. Recapitalization, Nigeria needs bigger banks for $1 trillion $1 trillion economy, NDIC. Recapitalization, Nigeria needs bigger banks for $1 trillion economy, NDIC. Supreme Court okays indefinite use of old new bank notes. Federal government begs core members over deplorable NYSC camps. And the last leading story on the cover says we'll stop IOCs from divesting facilities until that is from NAS. Find out what that until refers to as you log on to the website of Vanguard, www.vanguardngr.com. From Vanguard, we move to the Nation. The Nation is talking budget. It says defense, education, health top Tinubu's 27.5 trillion naira budget. Defense, education, health top Tinubu's 27.5 trillion naira budget. Human capital development, poverty reduction, infrastructure are priorities. Pension, proposed wage raise push up deficit to 9.1 trillion naira. And of course, we have a breakdown of the sectoral allocation. Defense has 3.25 trillion naira, education 2.18 trillion naira, infrastructure 1.32 trillion naira, health 1.3 trillion naira, social development / poverty reduction 534 billion naira, recurrent spending 9.92 trillion naira, capital expenditure 8.7 trillion naira, debt service 8.25 trillion naira. These are 45%. These make up 45% of expected revenue as projected for debt servicing. And of course, the key indices are 750 naira to a dollar, $77.96 per barrel of oil, of crude oil, 1.78 million barrels per day. Projected growth at 3.76%. Inflation reduction to 21.4%. That's a breakdown of the 27.5 trillion naira budget President Bola Tinubu submitted to the National Assembly yesterday. Above that, we have JAMB releases timetable for 2024 UTME as troops deployed in Benue. This story is on page 3 and 27 of the Nation. And above the masthead, we have security agencies disperse protesters at Kogi INEC office. Old new naira notes remain legal tender indefinitely. You can find out more on page 5 of the paper. 2022 floods caused $9.12 billion damage, says NBS report. 2022 floods caused $9.12 billion damage, says MBS reports. The story continues on page 2 of The Nation. And of course, the last story on that masthead says aviation units in blame game over flight diversion to Asaba. The story continues on page 5, and you can find out more as you log on to the website of The Nation, www.thenationonlineng.net. And that's all we can take on The Nation as we move up forward to The Guardian. The Guardian says Conference of Parties 28 Summit. Again, Nigeria orders negotiate right to just transition. Conference of Parties 28 Summit, that is COP28 Summit. Again, Nigeria orders negotiate rights to just transition. The story continues on page 6 of The Guardian. Fulfill your stance on federalism. Afenifere tells Tinubu. 14% Nigerian women experience physical violence. There is a news page on page 4 of The Guardian. Provides 535.8 million naira school feeding details. Court orders minister. More teaching hospitals risk shutdown over exodus of medical professionals. NONGS applause as Tinubu presents 27.5 trillion naira budget of renewed hope. These are the leading stories gracing the cover of The Guardian today, Thursday, November 30, 2023. For continuation of these headline stories, inside stories, and of course the editorial, log on to the website of The Guardian, www.guardian.ng. From The Guardian, we move to the last paper we have on our menu, and that is THISDAY. THISDAY says, still on the 27.5 trillion naira budget, NAS pledges speedy consideration, aggressive oversight of Tinubu's 27.5 trillion naira budget. And the riders, fiscal document projects 9.92 trillion naira recurrent expenditure, 8.7 trillion naira capital expenditure, 8.25 trillion naira for debt service, 9.18 trillion naira deficit, to finance deficit with 7.83 trillion naira new borrowings. Expects 298.49 billion naira from privatization proceeds, 1.05 trillion naira foreign loans. Akpabio hints at plans to merge or bundle MDAs. Nigerians expect quick, sustainable solutions to economic hardship, Abbas tells president. PDP, Tinubu's budget deceitful, strangulating, hopeless to economic hardship, Abbas tells president. PDP, Tinubu's budget deceitful, strangulating, hopeless. Opposition party says fiscal plan has no mechanism for economic recovery. These are the riders on the leading story on budgets. The story continues on page 14 of the THISDAY newspaper. And above that, we have FROC to reintroduce corporate governance code for churches, mosque orders. FROC to reintroduce corporate governance code for churches, mosque orders. The story is on page 6 of THISDAY. And above that, Supreme Court, 200 naira, 500, 1,000 notes remain legal tender. Budget, finance ministers defend president's borrowing plan. 2024 budget proposal based on realistic assumptions, says Minister of Finance, Ejo. Those are the leading stories on this day. Today, the last day of November 30, 2023. For more continuation and inside stories and even the editorial, log on to the website of The Guardian, www.thisdaylive.com. And with that, we've come to the end of this first segment of the show where we review front headline stories. My name is Winifred Webo, and of course I have my Thursday guest already in the house to throw more light on some of the leading stories. Don't go away, just stay tuned.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
Hello there, welcome back to the continuation of our favorite program on television, Inside Nigeria. My name is Winifred Global once again, and of course, I have my Thursday guest in the house. He's a political economist, he's also a public affairs analyst, Olamileko Adefolare. Thank you so much, it's a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thanks for having me. Very good morning to you.
Very good morning to you. Now, Adefolare, today the newspapers are awash with budget story. Yesterday, as you are aware, President Bola Tinubu presented his 2024 budget to the National Joint House of the National Assembly, and the budget, which he calls renewed hope, is 27.5 trillion naira. But why some are congratulating, saying kudos to the budget, some are knocking it that it's not enough to galvanize the economy. What's your take as a political economist?
Exactly. It's a two-way thing. Either you say it is good or you say, okay, it is not enough. Because, and for me as a political economist, there's no money that will ever be enough. Even if you like, let us bring 100 trillion naira out as the budget for 2024. It will still never be enough in comparison to the decay in development, particularly in the area of education, health, and other sector of the economy that need urgent attention from government. Although this is a federal government budget, what are the state doing? I think that is the question that people need to be asking. What is the state budget? What are they doing for their own state at their state level, which is the subnational level? Because our concentration has been federal government, federal government. So what about state government? What are they budgeting? And how much of those budgeting is going to critical sector of the economy of Nigeria?
Okay. Now, before we talk about the budget, you mentioned states. What are states doing? But it's so easy for generality of Nigerians to actually trace the budget, but it's not so in the states, because if you come out to say challenge the state government on what they are doing with some of these budget lines, your life is at stake.
Exactly, you are very correct. But
so what can actually be done about that?
There's a changing narrative around it now. I think I've had opportunity this year to participate in 2022 budget of some state, and people spoke about CSO, spoke about individuals, spoke about it, and some states are taking the correction because it is adversary to them to do the needful. But on the other hand, we still need more sensitization, more awareness, and lesser politics around state budget, because what is making it what is fueling the fear around it is that when you politicize the state budget, the governors will not be happy, because although they too know that what they are doing is wrong, although we are not, from what I've discovered in interacting with state budgets, that it's the same problem that we have at the federal level. You see what we have in at state level, full implementation of those budgets is what we have in
exactly. And now, how do Nigerians CSO begin to track budget? Because when you go for several workshops, they tell you that Nigerians can actually track budget as far as done in Western and other climes of the world, but it's not so in Nigeria. How do you now begin to track budget? Because like you said, Nigeria has changed, things have moved on, we are in another era. So but how will Nigerians actually take destiny in their hands and begin to track this budget?
It's very simple. One key aspect is awareness in terms of budget participation. When those budget laws, like the one that the president did yesterday, now this is the first leg. We are waiting for the part 2 of the first leg. The part 2 of the first leg, it is when it is being approved by the National Assembly. And when it is being approved by the National Assembly, they will now look at the budget outline, each item on the table of each MDA, which ministries, and the rest of them. Now, in that regard, one key aspect that I'll be able to bring out when I was talking on that sister station is this. Now, if a ministry is looking for 100 billion and that money is released, we know that they are looking for 100 billion. When it is released, nobody knows about it.
Yes.
So the key question is that we want to know when it is being released.
However, if I may also put in, there's also another issue of release of funds, because it's one thing to actually budget, have a budget line for maybe education, health, and security, but it's another different thing for you to have those funds released. Why is it so?
It's because
and all these budget lines don't even get their budget, don't have to get their budget released, the funds released even before the expiration of the year.
It's because there are critical issues. One is that the budget sometimes could be a repetitive budget. And most times in this federal government budget, you see repetitive items keep repeating themselves. 2022 we bought computer, 2023 we are buying computer, 2024 we are buying computer, 2022 we buy SUV, 23 we are buying SUV, 2024 we are still going to buy them. Now, the one that was bought in 2022 when money was released, did we see it? No, they say they carried over to 2023. Now 2023 was the money released, we don't know. 2024 now we are having another issue. Now they will not tell you that, okay, because of strain on those vehicles, we need to change them, we need to do this, or because of the expansion of the bureaucracy of government. They need to buy more. Now, the ones that have been budgeted for, when the money was released, people, were they aware? That is the key question. Were they aware that this money was released? And again, the two component part of budget is capital and recurrent. Yes. Nobody normally complain about recurrent, but capital is where we have issues.
Yes.
And the capital aspect is because it's very much in size and it's very critical to the economy. So the release sometimes could be overshadowed because of the recurrent expenditure, because government bureaucracy recurrent is more key. But they are forgetting that it's the capital that is more key to the economy. Recurrent is just salaries, allowances, and the rest of them that can be easily released at any time. And most bureaucracy fast track the release of recurrent than capital. That's why we normally have over cyclical budgeting system, in the sense that what we budgeted capitally for a particular project, we are not taking over. A good example is the 6 trillion that Minister of Works is saying the federal government is owing contractors over roads that have been abandoned or that have been because of one issue or the other, they left it. Now they have reviewed the contract, and it has now turned so bogus. So in this regard now, you can discover that in 2015, the particular road was budgeted for. Now, till 2023, we are still trying to construct that road. So what do you think happened? When money was released in tranches, we don't know. Little by little, they collected it. And when they collected it, they didn't tell us they collected it. Now they are telling us that we need to collect. They still want to collect more. And that is where I found problem in terms of this budgeting system in Nigeria. But we need to know when the money is released and for what purpose it is being released.
And apart from that one too, also after being released, the funds being released, we have to, what about budget performance? It's one thing for the funds to be released, but the funds, have they been utilized for the purpose, for that budget line it was budgeted for?
One of the challenge of this is based on the CEO or MD or DG of those agencies. Sometimes they have money for capital, they divert it to other issues of urgent national matter. Like instance now,
but is that supposed to be, because this money specifically that was budgeted specifically for a line, budget line? So why would the MDAs now divert and just decide on their own or spur the monuments to divert the funds to something?
Sometimes it could be as a result of the exigency in terms of the political power that control the federal government. Like if it's controlling the federal government, there's a particular agency now that the National Assembly is investigating their budget of 2022-2023. 45 billion is missing. Now, not that the money was missing, but rather the money was diverted. It is based on the philosophy of the government in place. Now, like Tinubu now, his government is looking at social intervention programs. Don't be surprised that all the agencies will be doing social intervention programs from now to 2027. Because that is the body language of the government. They want to spend money, they want to empower the youth, they want to do skills acquisition. So by the time they have money to build roads or they want to correct one or two things in their headquarters, they will divert that money and put into that particular
thank you so much. I just mentioned the budget performance. You notice that for the past almost, at least throughout 8 years term of Buhari's administration, and even prior to that, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan's administration, the defense has been taking the lion's share of the budget. Now, what has been the situation, especially in terms of security issues in Nigeria? You discover that even despite the money that has been allocated to defense consistently and consecutively over the years, nothing, we can't say that we've had our money's worth.
It is because the defense has always been, it's not just a Nigerian, it's a global phenomenon across the world. Every nation state normally focus on defense and security. They always attach priority to it. The problem we have here is that even though we attach priority to giving much to defense, the other sector that we also give much to, because of the encumbrance of bureaucratic nature and bottleneck around budget performance, matching performance with indicators that we have set, we don't get results for it. I don't know whether I get what I mean. Now we like this comment when we have budgeted 2.1 trillion, 2.18 trillion.
Just last week, defense chiefs, they addressed the National Assembly. They went before National Assembly, and the chief of defense lamented that they don't have enough fund to do what they are supposed to do. So it's partly why we are having security.
And if you interrogate,
and I begin to wonder that there was one. Was it 2018? Yes, 2018, when former President Buhari also got $1 billion
to fund the security
issues. So what happened?
The issue is that if you interrogate defense funding in Nigeria, you discover that there is little amount going to armory, going to weapons, going to equipment, than what is going to the stomach infrastructure of the military. That is what is happening. They do a lot of smart infrastructure
But
budgeting
even
than
with stomach infrastructure, you see that our frontline soldiers are always complaining that they are not giving them
it
enough.
is because the priority is based on the top men in the security architecture, the DG,
And
the
not the
general,
front
not
line.
not the front line. The front line are what we call in local movies sufayo. They can go and die anytime. So they care less about them. Although they will tell you it's because of the training expenditure or training fund that government have expanded on generals or lieutenant or whatever position. So the government won't want to, as much training they have expanded on them, that is the same way they are going to take care of them. That's why I say that a general, for someone to be a general or to be an inspector general, he has gone through several rank and file, several training. So that level, they also demand him to be taken care of than the ones that normally that are recruited that receive lesser training, just training that they receive are just full soldier training. They don't get the intellectual capacity to confront any security issue. So just like in every sector, in a capitalist economic system, we pay attention to intellectuals in taking care of them than those other ones. Just like informal sector, you see that in the informal sector, nobody care about the weather.
And it's not just military alone. We also have the same thing with police across board. And you see that even their armory is not does not match the power of those tops.
It's true,
and
because
you see policemen have become endangered species
because we concentrate more
because they are no match to all these thugs, all these robbers.
Okay, look at the 3.25 billion the 3.25 billion budget for defense and security. Now, by the time you interrogate it, you discover that a just minute of it is going for armory, going for training, going for social welfare of the lower rank in the military or the police. But I also take to what the president says is going to overhaul the entire security architecture. And I remember in May 29th, he said training, capacity building will be the core word of presentation when it comes to defense and security. Maybe with this money now, much of that will go. And for me, I would advise that it should not go to the top rank in the security. It should go to the lesser guys in the lower rank. And that's where we will get the best.
Most of the time they cry out, but nothing is being done about it. At most, they even got marshaled those soldiers that come out to say
something. Even CSOs that want to put eye on defense and security budget, people, before you know, they'll begin to attack you. But I know that things are changing. With this one, I know many CSO, including economic organization, will begin to look at this.
Well, I was coming to this last question, another question of budget. Many Nigerians see budgeting in Nigeria, even at both federal and state levels, as a hollow ritual, which has not translated to the development and well-being of the populace.
It happens because our concentration has been on recurrent capital that was supposed to turn around the economy. There's lesser attention to it. Now, road works is receiving about 1 point something trillion. Now, how come road did not get 2.5 trillion? How come road, which is very critical? By the time all the road network in Nigeria is very brilliant or very interesting for people to apply, the economy will move. Then when these roads are linking up to industrial sector of the economy, it works. Then we don't now talk about reducing the unemployment. It is from there. But the other ones that are receiving 3.2 million, what are they going to? What is? I know security, they build gigantic infrastructure, they do all this, but do they really have a link to ordinary man on the street? Yeah. Although they protect us, but at the end of the day, much of the protection we still make provision for it. We provide for vigilante, we provide for security dog, we provide fences for houses. So by the time we don't have a link between our budgeting system and the economy, there's no way we can make progress. And that also ties to the other question you asked about performance. That performance index is very key. But the critical problem we have always have in our budget is corruption, embezzlement of funds, misappropriation of funds, and the lateness or official negligence in terms of releasing the fund. Because a lot of time when the Minister of Finance is doing their politicization around budget fund release, it's a key issue. And that's why you see that when you are a minister, you have to be very friendly with the Minister of Finance. And if you are not friendly with him, you will not get what you want. There are
so many bureaucracies that throw up corruption in the system.
Exactly.
How do you get it? But even state government, before they can get allocation from the fact release, they still have to oil and grease some palms.
But I mean, I'm not expecting that to happen at that level of the state government and collecting money from federal Minister of Finance in terms of the federal allocation.
Even MDA.
It is because as a result of maybe who will collect first, who will not collect last, or that's why most of them agitate. And you know, at the end of when they collect the funds, we don't even know what to do with the fund. But at the federal level, ministries, when they release money, we want to see that money be announced. Now we have known that you are collecting this.
FOI was launched with so much fanfare years back. That is a Freedom of Information Act. So how useful it is now? Don't you think it's time to revive it? Even though you use it, it was passed and signed into law. Even if you still want to find that information, in some MDAs they will tell you no, we cannot divulge this information. So what can be done? Because we are talking about budgeting now, so that budget in the country going forward will not just be a hollow ritual. You can actually track the funds and also assess the performance of these funds.
Definitely.
FOI is very, very vital
It's
now,
very vital,
more than ever before.
And maybe there could be a need for reviewing the act, because one of the key aspects that is missing in the act is sanction and punishment for airing MDAs.
Okay.
It's not there in the act. So I wish we can introduce that if a particular MDA or a ministry fail to honor FOI request, this is what will be put, and not just on the entire agency, on top of the CEO or the minister or whoever that is in charge. I think that's what also led to where government also established what they call Savicom. So how far as Savicom is supposed to complement FOI, but we discovered that when they have established the department of Savicom, they now bring a staff in that same organization to be Savicom head. So how what do you expect to happen? It will still be the same story, and again, a lot of confidential document has been regarded as part of the document. But most of these bureaucracies are forgetting that most of these documents are for public consumption and for public use. So it's nothing like too secret. We know the one that we consider as secret, and when it comes to money, it is not secret. It has to be exposed. But not we know the ones that we can say, okay, because of national security, we should not expose them. But when it comes to budgetary allocation or disbursement, we need to know. And that is what FOI is supposed to do. And if there is to review the act so that we can now have sanction and punishment for people who err against it, I think that's the best way to do.
Thank you so much. Now, still on budget, just before we leave it, I want to ask you, how would you assess the budget as a whole, this 27.5 trillion naira budget? How would you assess it?
For me, it's laudable, it's progressive, and it's also very ambitious. But the key message, the key parameter is what I've been looking at since yesterday as an economist in terms of the 1.7 million barrel of petroleum per day, the $750 exchange rate, the $77 for per barrel that we're expecting, then the 18 trillion target revenue from government. And I look at the 18 trillion target and I discover that it is still oil that we are putting a hope. But recently the government is looking at tax. But I have a problem with the tax. As laudable as brilliant as getting money from IGRA is, it is not the only best way to get. All this inclination that Western world, they collect us, they also engage in businesses. What happened to the mining sector, the way we have operated at NNPC, to the point NNPC is any money? What stopped a Nigerian mining company to exist? Even though the president have said that he's looking up to private capital to come in and invest in mining. Now set up a company like NNPC. Let them also be mining. Let them have joint ventures with private sector and be exploiting those mineral resources, sell it and earn something for us. Not just waiting, we must collect tax. Collect tax at the end of the day. Nigerians are waiting for you to use the tax bill, and when you don't use it, they will refuse to pay. That is the problem. Even businesses that are avoiding to pay tax, it's as a result of the structural deficit we have in the economy. There's no stable power electricity, there's no good road, the multiple taxation is there, and also insecurity problem is also compounding the challenges. So for me, as laudable as any 10 trillion from tax is very good, but we can earn more when government gets involved in businesses. About 22 trillion is coming from privatization proceeds. That means government is good to sell some of its properties. But the key message is that there are 63 government-owned enterprises. What are they bringing on the table? For me, I'm not even too much focusing on this particular one. I'm focusing on government enterprise. In 2023 budget, do you know how much government budgeted for government enterprise? About 2 trillion is budgeted for them to operate. How much do they bring back to the economy? 500 billion naira. Even
the revenue generating agencies, they are getting their money and spending it on projects like we saw in the lottery trust fund.
That are being exposed now, and they have to account for it. They have to account for it. It's not something they will hide under the carpet. They have to account for it.
Thank you so much. Now talking about government doing business, the leading cover on The Guardian today says COPE, that is Conference of Parties 28 Summit. The 28 is the 28th meeting they are having currently in Dubai. Again, Nigeria orders negotiate rights to just transition. Nigerians have been negotiating. Now we have large deposits of gas reserve that could last us for many decades and decades of years. Yet Nigeria is not able to utilize it. Why do the Western world says no against to fuel fossil
Fossil fuel and the rest.
fossil fuel. So what are we going to do? Because we have been buying stalling for time.
For me,
And so what is governments, especially governments of developing countries, including Nigeria, going to say at this COP 28 summit, that is Conference of Parties 28 summit? What will be our excuse this time around?
we will continue to give them the excuse of going into negotiations to transit, because the technology behind the transition, we don't have it. And that's where we are.
And the Western world, they are still the one that have the manpower.
They have the manpower. So
and the resources.
And the resources. But the key thing is that African countries or developing countries should not shy away from negotiating from their strong perspective, their strong point. And that's
however, come to think of it, most everybody embrace green.
It's not compulsory. It's not compulsory. The issue is that most of Nigerians who are agitating on the forefront of, especially the CSO that are into environmental whatever, are pointing out the green gas emission, whatever. There's something they don't understand about the technology. It's a transition into a better technology that will now allow us to leave this current technology we are beginning to understand and adapt the one that is coming. And when we adapt the one that is coming, it is not in our hand. So it's like that's why when political economists from a very heterodox perspective discuss this, they will point out that now a new technology is coming. The one that we have before, developing countries are beginning to understand it, they begin to catch up. Now, this new one that is coming, by the time they tell us to abandon this one, we'll not be chasing that one at the detriment of our economy.
Exactly.
That's what is going to happen.
That is what I'm having. So what are the leaders saying? Can they stand up in one voice and say, because they have been buying for time, and at the end of the day, and during the time of buying for time, the Western powers actually promise some amount to help them transit. But at the end of the day, they have not gotten the amount.
Let's take, for example, energy, electricity. There is thermal energy, there is solar energy, there is alternative energy, there is wind energy. Now, the thermal energy is the propeller, the grid, our normal national grid. Now, what is the problem of that one for us to improve on it and generate electricity? Now they are saying that, no, go to solar, go to wind, and abandon that technology and take this one. So, if you think critically, you discover that by the time you abandon your national grid and go for this one, the technology is not in your hand.
It's in your hand.
Now you are now going to be chasing that one at the expense of the one. And
don't forget, we also have gas.
And the gas own is even more better. There is no problem with gas. The only problem we have in Nigeria is that the 49A company that have been given the gas flaring site to take over, I don't know what, we have not heard any news about them. What are they doing? Whether they are waiting for government to bring the counterpart funding or to borrow their money the way government is borrowing all this electricity distribution company and money. Maybe that's what they are waiting for. And I don't expect government to fall into that such trap. So the electricity aspect now, renewable energy they are talking about, is to move away from a national grid into a renewable one, talk like wind, solar, and the rest of them. But the technology is not in our hand. Now we have a cell lithium that can be used to produce some of those materials. It's here. But they are not saying go and take the technology and turn it around. But they want you to be importing it. Look at the CNG kit that's been produced.
Yes,
none of them is produced in Nigeria.
It's not.
So by the time you look at this critically, you discover that it's not something that we can quickly rush into. Let developing countries, African countries, take their time. And I also want to use the point to encourage our brothers that are into this green energy, green gas, whatever. They should not push the African government into another trap of enslavement economically. Because if they end up doing this, it will boomerang on us. We understand what is happening in climate change. But even the problem of the climate change, it is 80% are caused by these developed countries.
Okay.
So why should they now push us into, although we know the carrot they are throwing is money, $100 billion, $200 billion to be shared. But it is not, it is the soul and the economic development of Africa that can come with it, because we are beginning to understand this technology. By the time we abandon it now, we begin to chase down. You can see what is happening around AI. Everybody is shouting AI. And they don't even understand that AI is as simple as it is. It's not just developing app, because that's how they push our people into app. At the end of the day, what backup app? We don't have the knowledge. The same thing they are pushing on into AI right now. We need to understand the critical structure of some of this technology that is coming. And that's why we have an agency like Nasani. So what is Nasani doing about AI? What is Nasani doing about even this green gas and whatever? What are they doing? So by the time we have an agency like that and they are not showing forth, that means we end up being enslaved.
So for how long now will Nigeria and the other developing countries begin to hold on?
For me, they should hold on as long as they can be able to turn around and understand this current technology very well and be able to adapt that one to their own, because all the raw material for this new renewable energy is here. Can we change the narrative around and begin to produce solar panel by ourselves? Begin to initiate all the ideas around this new energy, new renewable energy by ourselves. Because if we don't, CNG kit, we don't have. So by the time we say, okay, we are abandoning this one, we are going for gas and other CNG stuff, we begin to import. The economy continues to go down. Naira begin to chase dollar. Then when Naira becomes 2,000 to a dollar, somebody will want to blame the government. Meanwhile, they are the one pushing government, abandon this one, abandon this one. I think that's the aspect I need to explain some of these things, because we need to be critical about this transition, because the transition is not for economic benefit to Africa. It is the economic benefit to the Western world and their allies.
Well, thank you so much. That is a takeaway from our today's program. I hope leaders in Conference of Parties 28 Summit ongoing in Dubai will listen to this.
That is if the money they are throwing at them, the carrot money they are throwing at them, have not overshadowed their eyes. That's the key.
Sincerely praise. So, well, that is how we draw the curtain on today's last day of the month of November's edition of Inside Nigeria. My name is Winifred Bebo, and with me, we have the pleasure of hearing from him. He's a political economist and, of course, public affairs analyst, Olamileko Atefolare. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So, viewers, until we come your way again, see you next month. Bye.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last